Nina. Thanks so much for joining me today. Today I'm really excited because this is day one of Neat and Tangled's November release. This release is full of fun holiday products, and I'm going to be showcasing the brand new Merry and Bright die today in my card project. Now I wanted to create something really fun with this Merry and Bright die because it reminded me of a hand-lettered sentiment, and I thought it would look cool to create my own little background that I've hand-painted myself to kind of go around with that Merry and Bright sentiment that looks like it was hand-painted. So here's the die. It comes with an outline, and then you also have the words itself. I'm using the outline first. I'm going to be laying this down onto my card panel, as this is going to allow me to plan out where all of my painting is going to end up being. So I taped this down temporarily to my card, and now I'm taking some white ink from Simon Says Stamp. This is their white pigment ink, and I'm going to smush this down onto a hardboard. This is a hardboard from Art Impressions. I'll have it linked in the video description. It works well for smushing inks onto this and then picking them up to do some painting. So I'm going to take the white pigment ink and start painting on some images, starting off with a poinsettia first. I'm going to be adding things like poinsettias, little ferns and berry leaves, holly, all sorts of other different Christmassy foliage to just fill in the background on this panel. So I painted these images very simply. I wanted this to be very easy to recreate so that you, as you're watching this, don't have to feel like you need to be an artist or know how to paint images that look very detailed. I'm doing very simple artwork here. The reason I'm doing the simple artwork, it's going to look more like that chalkboard, really fun hand-drawn feel to these images. The more hand-drawn they look, I think the better they actually look. So that's going to allow me to get that really neat feel. And it's also going to then, again, like I said, make it easier for you guys to recreate this as well. So I'm going to continue adding in these images, filling in all the different areas, and as I have areas that are a little bit more open in spots, I'm just filling those in with dots because I think that really fills it in nicely and kind of really adds to that nice hand-drawn feel. So I'll go ahead and finish this up, and you'll also notice I had some fun little swirls around the letters just to kind of help add some interest to the sentiment. Now I want to frost the edges of this because I want this to have, again, that same artwork chalkboard feel. So I'm going to brush on some of that white pigment ink with a sponge tool. This is an ink blending tool from Tim Holtz and Ranger, and I'm just going ahead and brushing on some of this pigment ink around the edges. I'm starting off very lightly as I add the ink onto the paper, and then I'll gradually get further in and also add some heavier color along the very edges. And as it blends in towards the center, it's going to get lighter. But by starting off very light and not going too far, it allows me to control how far I want to go and kind of decide if I want to go any further or if I want to stop at where I've already added the ink. So after I added the ink around the edges, I am taking the Merry and Bright die, which I die cut from both some brown cardstock and some red cardstock. The brown cardstock I covered with gold embossing powder, and this one I'm covering with clear embossing powder because I want this to be bright red. It's very easy to do. You can see I just added embossing ink over top of the word Merry here. And now I'm sprinkling on some clear embossing powder from Simon Says Stamp. I repeated the same process for the bright word, and all I did was I added the gold embossing powder instead of clear. So I heat set this in between each embossing layer. So this is layer 1, and I'm going to end up adding multiple layers of embossing powder onto these die cuts to make them more dimensional. So I'm going to take that same die once again, going to apply more embossing ink over top, and again I'll apply more embossing powder over top of the die. And I'll continue doing this. I think I did about 3 or 4 layers on each word die, and then I'll go ahead and heat set that in between each layer until I have it to the dimension that I want it to be. Once I've added all the embossing powder on top of these little embellishment word dies, I'm adding some liquid glue to the back side, and then I'll go ahead and lay these down onto my card. Now you'll also notice that I have a clear block sitting on top of the word bright. That's because I've already applied the glue down onto the die cut, and I'm just allowing that clear block to sit on top and hold those die cut pieces down onto that card panel so that way they adhere fully to the card. After they fully adhered, I'm painting in the ampersand, and I'm just kind of following the look of the ampersand that's included in the die set. I didn't want this to be die cut. You could die cut it if you'd like, if you don't feel comfortable painting the ampersand. But I wanted this to match the white pigment ink painting that we've done in the background. So I'm going to go ahead and just paint this on instead of using the die cut piece. Sorry about my head. I had to get close up so I could see what it was doing here, so I was making sure I had this painted on really well. I'm going to fill in a little bit more of those little swirls that I have underneath of my letters. Just I think it really fills this in and adds some fun to the sentiment. Draws your attention to it really well. Okay, so that's going to finish up my card. The only other thing I did was I mounted this onto a white card panel and tied a bit of red and white baker's twine around the card. And I also took a white gel pen and added some details to the flowers and leaves, just kind of little lines to create veins in the flowers and leaves. Thought that would finish it up really nicely. So I hope you've enjoyed and got some inspiration on using the new Merry and Bright die from Neat and Tangled. I will have more projects to share with you all week, so be sure to check back to my YouTube channel and my blog to check all that out. I'll also have links to the products that I used today in the video description and also over at my blog. If you enjoyed this video, here's some other videos you might enjoy featuring Neat and Tangled products. Please give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you can connect with me on social media at Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, as well as my blog. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you again soon.